begin down here. Could we have a little more light, please?
Light! The man wants light!
Thank you. Very nice. E is for emergency. Any emergency that threatens the people in a community. Fire, flood, blizzard, blackout, hurricane, or that most comprehensive threat of all, a nuclear attack. O is for operations. The action the government must take if lives are to be saved and property is to be protected. C is for center. The center of government for emergency operations. EOC. A setting, a place, an environment. A very special environment where decisions can be made and from which control can be exercised. We're going to create such an environment right here. But first, two assumptions. Let's assume that the emergency is a nuclear attack. That's why an EOC should always be set up in a protected place with a protection factor of at least 100. Second assumption, our community is a small city, about 75,000. Lively, prosperous, growing bigger year by year, but complex enough to keep our mayor very busy indeed. Now, in the normal course of a day, the mayor of Central City makes many decisions. But he has time to consider them, time to think about them and investigate them, time to talk to the people that are concerned wherever they may be. He has an opportunity to organize his time, to plan ahead. Miss Jones, what's my first appointment tomorrow? Miss Jones.
Miss Jones ain't here.
I know she ain't. Isn't. That's the point. In an EOC, we have to dispense with the amenities of ordinary office routine. Away with that elegance. All of it.
Okay.
No, all of it.
All right. I'm sorry about that. Nobody's perfect, you know. Boy, the characters you meet around here, I never seen nothing like it in my life.
An emergency is any situation that requires immediate action. But in some emergencies, you may be faced with new problems every hour, possibly hundreds of new problems involving life and death. And you must meet those problems with whatever resources you have on hand now. And time is measured not in days, weeks, or months, but in minutes. So your center of operations in an emergency is stripped to its essentials, one of which is communications. Now, obviously, this equipment must always be in good working order. And the best way to be sure is to use it. In fact, the smart thing to do is to have your normal communications personnel stationed in the EOC area and using the equipment 24 hours a day. The police and fire dispatchers, for example, down here they can serve two functions.
Pumper 4, this is Fire Central.
Police Central. Sergeant Helms speaking there.
Pumper 4, report when you're through.
What cat up what tree? One moment, please, madam. I think this is your department. Yes, ma'am.
Ordinarily, they're occupied with the regular traffic of their departments.
Fire Central to all stations.
This is Police Central.
This is an attack
Police
warning.
Central, calling all
Repeat,
stations.
an attack warning.
We have an attack warning. An attack warning.
But they shift to emergency operations the minute they get the word.
No, sir. Attack warning message. That's all we have so far. Yes, sir?
Fire Central, this is
Yes,
Fire
sir.
Central.
Roger. Roger.
Pumper 6, did you read my last message?
Of course, these men can't be expected to handle the job alone. Not in the EOC for a city this size.
Captain Nichols.
That's why the Public Works Department maintain a standby communication station down here. And the health and welfare people, too. We also tie in the shelter managers and the radiological monitoring units in with the EOC. And of course, we have to have switchboards.
I'm sorry. EOC. I beg your pardon. I'll give you health and welfare. I have your party. 17 EOC. I beg your... Oh, emergency.
500, shelter 24, we have room for 350, shelter number 26.
I say we can't do it without switchboards because bring down the wall.
We have room for 500.
Right down.
Number 23, we have room
All the way down.
Does that suit your Royal Highness?
Very nice. Now you won't forget the maps, will you? And bring me back the blackboard.
Control. I must control myself. I will not get excited. I will only think beautiful thoughts. I will be trustworthy, loyal, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
Communications is certainly the first essential of an EOC. But you should keep all that equipment in a separate area, off by itself.
Timber!
That's part of the logic of an EOC. Part of the pattern. We put communications on one side. We use the other three sides for support. Sleeping areas, washrooms, generators, kitchens, the housekeeping facilities that maintain the staff during an emergency. But this is the real nerve center, the operations room, surrounded and supported by the other areas, and yet isolated from them. Now, what kind of a place is an operations room? Well, just come with me. It's very compact, somewhat austere. No gadgets, no distractions, nothing superfluous. Not even an extra chair for the casual visitor. These walls are a giant display of vital and up-to-the-minute information about our city and what's happening to it during the emergency. This information is immediately available to everybody in this room. For a general picture, start with this map. It represents the area around the city. Here we post everything we can find out about the attack and what effect it's had on our area, where nuclear detonations have been reported, the blast and the fire effects, the wind direction, and the fallout predictions. These matters are among the particular concern of our experts on the effects of nuclear weapons, the men that sit right here. But their expertise is also applied to this map. We take a section of that map and we blow it up into a detailed map of the city. It's chock full of information. But for the moment, just these items, please. You see this contour line? The red line indicates where hazardous fallout conditions have been recorded. It's a prime example of disaster analysis information, and it shows the kind of tough decisions that must be reached right here in this room. For example, the mayor might rule that because of the equipment and personnel available, all police, fire, and rescue operations will have to be limited to below this line. Harsh, but unavoidable. Now, notice this section of the map. This is the most densely populated part of the city, only during business hours. And it has the most shelter space. So, it calls for a map of its own. Nope, not yet. You're not finished yet, not quite.
What now?
I want some chairs and tables over on that side of the room.
Chairs and tables.
Yeah, chairs and tables.
You got 'em.
Hey, that's good.
Oh, it's nothing. It's
That's really very good. Thank you very much.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Now, so far we have not dealt with the community's response.
Will there be anything else, Your Majesty?
Well, yes. There'll be paper and pencils and typewriters and phones and everything that's needed over there. And more chairs and
I knew it.
tables.
I just knew it. I knew it. Oh, I just knew it.
If we're to cope with this emergency, we need to know just exactly how big the problem is. And we need to know just what resources the city still has in hand. Now, that's the assignment of the men along one side of our long table. Key men from key departments. Health and welfare, public works, civil defense shelter specialist, fire, and police. Of course, the community also has other resources, commercial, private, and institutional. And there's a liaison group across the room that deal in that. No, that's the disaster analysis group. Move along. There. That's the resources liaison group. Right. The liaison people know where to find things. Food, fuel, clothing, medical supplies, trucks, bulldozers, and so on. They, and the department men here, keep track of what we have to work with and whom we have to work with. Now, let me give you an example. Public fallout shelter, now very much in demand. The shelter specialist is a numbers man. He adds and subtracts and figures percentages by the hour, trying to match the supply with the demand. And his calculations are posted right here. A running inventory of shelter space. It shows the status of communications, the maximum possible capacity, how many people are there, how many people are on their way there, and how many more can still be sent there. This is the really important question. How many spaces are still available? We need a graphic display of this information that everyone can see. In our city, we have a rather simple way of putting this on the map. Would you be good enough to demonstrate the shelter tabs, please?
You mean you want me to turn them over for you?
If you will, please.
You want a red to green or green to red?
Green to red.
Okay.
No, not that. We'll come to that later. The square.
Takes one to know one. This?
That's right, the little squares. Each tab represents a group of shelters. When the green side is out, it means that there's space available in the shelters. Now,
Fascinating.
turn it over, will you please? Good. Red means that the shelters are filled. Thank you.
Is that it? But that's all you wanted me to do?
Right.
Well, why couldn't you do that yourself? What are you, a weakling or something? Well, you're cutting into my nap time.
Another example of keeping track. The job these two men do here. They wear headphones so they can listen to the police and the fire radio. And they spend most of their time at this duplicate map of the city, pushing magnetic markers from one place to another. Here. The disc represents a fire truck. The triangle represents a police vehicle, motorcycle, or a car. Red side up, a car on assignment. Green side up, a car awaiting assignment. Red disc, busy fire truck. Green triangle, available police car. Yellow stripe.
No guts.
A yellow stripe represents a mobile public address system.
Oh!
Is it important to keep track of the movement of these units? Important? It's essential. It shows the police chief and the fire chief three important things at a glance. One, which units are assigned. Two, where they're assigned. Three, how much or how little he has left. It's all yours. I want to point out that the two men in these positions do not issue any instructions, nor do any of the people on this side of the table. Their job is as collectors and reporters of information. And that's equally true of the disaster analysis section. And the resources liaison group. Their function is to know, not to decide. The making of decisions begins right here. These are calls for help that have come in within the last 2 or 3 minutes. They have been reduced to 8 lines of hard facts. Now they're being read by a man that we call the message controller. because he controls the influx of emergency reports, and he sorts them into various categories. But these are assigned to operation officers for action now. Fire operations, one for you. Police, for you. These men are the key to the whole business. Shelter operations, this is priority. They make decisions here on a working level. Who does what, where, when, and how. Doctor, one for you. This man is in charge of medical emergencies. Two for you, sir. One, two. This is public works. These men have control over the use of all the resources that the community has. There is only one thing that they can't do, and that is to let go of a problem before it's resolved. The man in charge of decision-making, the chief of the operations section, is a top city official who learned the technique from long experience in municipal administration. The men he depends on are all highly qualified too. Each is the senior professional in his department. And that applies to every shift, of course. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
You need to have senior professionals as the operating officers around the clock at EOC. You may have noticed that I kept back these copies at the time that I handed out the emergency reports. Let me show you why I did it.
No, let me show them.
Are you sure you know how to do this?
Oh, that's the unkindest cut of all. I watched the man give me that. Oh.
One of the big ideas here is that information should be displayed. This blackboard, the emergency log, shows the major emergencies that are being worked on. And it's updated as emergency reports come in. A quick display of the current workload. Every serious problem is identified by a number. The facts pertaining to that problem are summarized on the log, including the action that has been taken. The problem is also indicated on the map using the same number, the city map or the downtown map. That's one reason why this is an efficient and effective operating center. Second reason, flexibility. It works for any kind of emergency. Simply replace these disaster analysis people with whatever other technical experts you'd like to have in here. Nothing else changes. Equipment, procedures, the rest of the staff, all the same. Oh, thanks, Andy. You're through now. Third, it's an easy place to work in. You have the communications right next door. Convenient, but not distracting. And everybody can see every display. People that work together sit together. And it's easy to control. This is where the buck stops. The executive table in the EOC. From here, the mayor can observe and direct the entire operation. He has a chief of staff to help him. In our town, the civil defense director, and a public information officer, and a military liaison if he needs one. Now, diagonally across the room is a bulletin board which the mayor uses for major policy announcements. That's about all he needs. Because in a very real sense, the entire operation exists for his purposes only. It's his show. Well, that's about the setup. The details don't matter very much. the labels, the furniture, the gimmicks. But the idea of...
Good night.
Good night, thanks. The idea of one protected place. One protected place for centralized control, where there's an instant display of common information available to all, where there's immediate and direct contact among the officials involved in the emergency. These ideas, these basic concepts of an emergency operating center, these matter a great deal.